And welcome back. More than 80% of small companies in the United States believe the coronavirus pandemic will affect their business for at least 12 to 16 months. Now, this according to the survey conducted by global payment company Veeam, which has helped thousands of small companies apply for loans under the government's $660 billion Paycheck Protection Program. Now, the survey also found nearly 90% of businesses polled are also preparing for an economic downturn that will further stall business. Now, government data released last week showed unemployment in the U.S. skyrocketed to 14.7% in April, and government officials say the jobless rate could hit as high as 20% in May. Now, one of the sectors hardest hit by the pandemic has been restaurants. Here in the U.S., the industry employs more than 15 million people across more than 1 million establishments, many of these small, local businesses. For more on that and how this pandemic has affected the restaurant industry, we're joined by Andrew Zimmern, four-time James Beard Award-winning TV personality, chef, activist, and creator-host of MSNBC's What's Eating America. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Now, you've been well connected to the independent restaurants throughout this country. While many have been able to provide some sort of service, it has mostly been limited to takeout and delivery. Now, what kind of pain is actually being felt in the industry amid all of these changes right now?
Tremendous amount of pain. There are operators, and they've been well documented, who have made the successful pivot. And because of the nature of their business, the setup of perhaps multiple units on the same city block or other advantages that are built into their own businesses, they've been able to make a go of it doing to-go and delivery foods. 99% of the restaurants, it's merely a drop in the bucket, and it's not a long-term viable solution. You can only bring back a small portion of employees. You're, in most cases, not even able to cover your rent and your utilities. A lot of restaurants are doing to-go and delivery service and community resource kitchen work as a way to sort of stay relevant, stay open, stay in front of their customers, and be visible in the public square.
And now, Andrew, it seems like, and I want to go right to the idea of reopening here, because it seems like this really isn't going away, and things certainly aren't going to return to the full normal for at least 18 months, right? So what is it going to look like when these restaurants do start to open back up? I mean, there's got to be some concern there that just customers alone aren't really going to want to go sit in a crowded restaurant, despite the idea of actually being able to get out there, and then also have all these employees and food and everything. Is this a concern that restaurateurs are having right now?
Incredible concern. Restaurateurs themselves, in general, are the most caring and considerate business owners that I know of. Remember, these are the people who, like first responders, rushed in when the towers fell, rushed in to post-Katrina to feed people. Restaurateurs don't get into this business to get rich. They get into this business because of the magic that they see that happens when two people sit down over a plate of food in their eatery. And what they're looking at right now is a situation where they can't even take care of their own employees' safety, let alone then be able to bring guests into the restaurant. It's going to require reorganizing the internal infrastructure of the restaurant, how employees enter the building, how the actual physical line setup is, how food is passed from area to area before it goes out the door. This is the difference between doing to-go business, 15, 20% of what your total was, and being fully open for business on a weekend evening in a restaurant. The restaurateurs that I'm involved with on several national and statewide coalitions are all expressing an insistence on getting the safety right for their employees and then pushing that outward to the guests. People as guests, when restaurants reopen, we're going to be at 25 to 50% of volume for quite some time. Tables have to be taken out. You're going to have a different system of food delivery, a different system of menu, a different system really for everything in the restaurant has to be recreated. Now, there are also reports, and I see them here in Minnesota and in other cities, of restaurants who were doing casual service who are now just doing fast casual. In other words, they were able to pivot a little easier because of the makeup of their physical space.
Well, and I think that's what, I mean, obviously fine dining may be a higher ticket item, but it's really, there are still some small businesses who have that fine dining mentality, but those are going to be harder on the takeout and the delivery. Am I correct about that?
Well, yeah, and you also have to remember, I believe fine dining, when we look, 14, 16, 18 months down the crystal ball route, I think there's always going to be a demand for super fine dining at a very high level. I think at the very bottom of the tier, the fast food sector is going to figure this out really, really fast. They're almost ideally suited for limited customer contact anyway, right? It's all those restaurants in the middle, the independent restaurants. And that's why, I became a founding member of the Independent Restaurant Coalition. For people who are really interested in delving deeper into the issues, I would insist they go to saverestaurants.com. We believe very much in two very, very important things right now. Number one, PPP has to be fixed or backstopped, extended in some way so it actually makes sense. You can't have an 8-week Band-Aid for an 18-month problem, right? There are restaurants who won't even, by state mandate, be able to be open during the time that their 8-week PPA loans are available to them. I have 2 restaurants in that very situation. And then we need a restaurant stabilization fund. We need a long-term sustained support of this industry so that they are open for business. And the reason we need it is that we're the second largest employer in America, right behind the Defense Department. I mean, you're talking about 11 to 15 million employees in a $1 trillion business that pays 20% of trust taxes in many states. It's an incredible number. And you also have to remember that it's a special business. 95% of every dollar that comes into a restaurant goes out the backside. It's a very low margin business, but that means it puts a ton into local, city, municipal, and state tax coffers, as well as is a huge part of our tourism industry. And before it comes in the front door, it supports all those farmers and abattoirs and, honey makers and fishermen. It is an incredibly, incredibly diverse ecosystem that actually becomes a multi-trillion-dollar industry when you take a look at it in association with its supportive structures.
Andrew, I'm so glad you addressed all of that stuff, and especially what you guys are doing with the IRC, because I was going to get there. But I want to hit on one last point before we wrap up here. You're known as a world traveler with programs covering food throughout the globe. Now, how is this affecting eateries outside of the U.S. that may rely on tourism or just people being out and about on the street to enjoy like street food that you might see in some place like Southeast Asia?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think is going to be true no matter where you are, whether it's a jungle market in the middle of Thailand or a beloved pizzeria in Naples, consumer confidence has to be there before you can get customers in the door. That's why the work that restaurants are doing to make their own businesses safe, a casual and slow and very intentional increase in business is vital. I saw yesterday that Da Michele, one of the most famous, is a 100-year-old pizzeria in Naples, my favorite place to eat pizza in the whole world, just reopened 2 days ago. But they're only doing to-go business right now. Now, this is a restaurant that didn't close during the cholera epidemic, didn't close during World War II, but it closed for this pandemic. We are truly in a once in every couple hundred years type of global, ambiguous and uncertain situation. And I think every restaurant, every street vendor, every casual eatery is going to have to take care of, put on their own gas mask first before they can start serving others the way we were 6 months ago.
Andrew, I could honestly pick your brain about this for an hour, but 4-time James Beard Award winning TV personality Andrew Zimmern, thank you so much for joining us and lending us that insight today.
Thank you.